You've probably heard the term hard and soft magic floating around, and if you haven't, that's fantastic as well, because let's disregard that almost in its entirety for now. I believe when it comes to magic systems, whether it be spell-slinging wizards, shamans accessing the pantheon, surge binders inhaling copious amounts of stormlight, I see you, Kaladin, flying high above the clouds. But there is one question that needs to be asked above all else. What is the goal? What is this magic system trying to do in the story? Why does it even exist in this world? And when I say that, I'm not talking about it from a lore perspective. No, I mean this purely from a storytelling standpoint. What is the function? Which is why my favorite system involves eating a metaphysical taco to gain superpowers. Totally did not just make that up. Before we get to the taco though, the thought might have occurred to you that that is a very open-ended question. And if it did, you're not wrong. Magic can serve a myriad of functions for storytelling, a staggering amount of use cases. But why then are there supposedly only two classifications? Magic with clear defined rules, something of a science, the other mystical, loose and unrestricted. And don't get me wrong, writing is incredibly subjective. If hard and soft is how you internalize developing magic systems, then by all means, I'm not here to disrupt your process. But I think there is a better way to wrap your head around it that can lead to much more interesting outcomes. At least it does for me. It goes back to function and a certain metaphysical taco. I lied, I did make it up. But let's say that's actually how the magic in our world works for some reason. Eat a taco, superpowers. If we were to classify that as hard or soft, on the surface it would seem like a hard system, because the rule is set that Mexican food gives you magic, and an extension of that is the opposite: no taco, no magic. Okay, now I'm hungry. But if this magic system still feels loose and unrestricted, that is because it is. Taco gives you superpowers, but what superpowers? What are you capable of doing? How powerful can you be? Does it stop when you fully digest it? Is it the taco as a whole or a specific ingredient? When is a taco not a taco then? Different fillings have different effects. I could literally go on for hours. The point I'm trying to make is that it is a spectrum from hard to soft, not just one end or the other. A spectrum determined by function, which I will get to in a bit. But our taco magic system would actually probably end up here, quite a ways into soft. Something like the Lord of the Rings sits well into soft, because Gandalf can just do things and it's never really explained. Like, screw you, I'm magic, deal with it. But the ring on its own is actually a pretty hard magic system. You put it on and you go invisible, but now you have a creepy stalker X named Sauron and you start to lose your marbles. Clear, simple rules. However, notice how things are never at the very end of the spectrum and always somewhere along the line. Yeah, Gandhi's magic is never truly explained, but he can just magic away a Balrog. So there are some rules, we the audience just don't know about them. I've actually seen a decent amount of magic systems that try to do both. They have separate aspects that focus on either side of the spectrum. It's the Lord of the Rings example that I just gave. It's sympathetic magic and naming magic in the name of the wind. It's bending and spirituality from Avatar, the good one, not blue people. And it all comes back to function. When I'm writing a magic system, there are two umbrella functions that I'm trying to achieve in the story. One, look really cool because it's magic, it's supposed to be dope stuff. And two, solve problems in the story. Protagonist in trouble, they eat a taco, and whiz bang, they're good. Oh my god, I can't get over that stupid taco. Why am I doing this? These two are never mutually exclusive though. Yeah, it's another arbitrary sliding scale, but it completely changes the mindset. Hard and soft systems become the result of function. When I say look really cool, I don't mean just be flashy. I mean, I imagine most of you are writing prose, nothing is really flashing at you. But it's magic that's intended to create a sense of wonder. Intended to completely immerse the reader in its setting. It just grabs them and smothers them with its sheer awesomeness. Yeah, it can be used to solve problems because once again, it's a spectrum, but it mostly isn't used that way. I usually separate magic from world building, even though they're very interconnected, it's just how I internalize it, but here is where they start to merge. Because it's serving the purpose of being absolutely freaking cool, it becomes less about what the characters can do with it. It integrates itself with the world as opposed to being more of a tool, which means the reader doesn't need as much of an understanding as they would have otherwise. It's also a lot easier to bend this magic to the themes of the story, align the system with character arcs, that sort of thing. It's Alice in Wonderland, pretty much every Studio Ghibli film, Game of Thrones, where the character is rarely ever slinging spells to get themselves out of a situation. And this function usually leads to a soft system, but there can definitely be a system with a lot of rules that's there mostly to add a sense of wonder to the world. It's just going to be an uphill battle because knowing and understanding demystifies it, and mystique is a huge part of sense of wonder. But another thing I want to touch on is perspective. Every system is hard and soft all at the same time, it all depends on where you're looking at it from. There are always rules rules, whether the reader and the audience knows about them is a different story. Whether the writer knows about the rules is a different one altogether. The magic works somehow. How deep the writer gets into the specifics determines how hard or soft it is for them. How much they reveal to the reader guides the function while determining how hard or soft the reader perceives the magic to be. I might have just made absolutely no sense. Hi, it's me, I'm editing. There's another layer this idiot forgot to add, which is characters. Arcane is a perfect example of when the characters perceive the magic as hard, yet the audience perceives it as a softer one. Jace, Victor, and Jinx are sciencing it up, yet we don't know what a single rune does. Cool gauntlets do the cool punch thing. Alright, back to the idiot. Allomancy from Mistborn would be a lot softer of a system if you didn't know how the magic worked. You don't see Vin swallow some steel or throw a coin on the ground and you just see her take off. You would probably think, hey yo, why is she flying? It's the million questions we were asking about our taco, whether filling makes a difference or how powerful can you be. This freaking taco, man. All hail the taco. But the more the writer chooses to know about the ins and outs of magic Mexican food, the more they can choose to show the reader. But it also means the easier it becomes to make the function a problem-solving one. The other side of the coin is where it starts to get a bit complicated. Like cool-looking magic, this is eliciting a reaction from the reader, but instead of awe, it's tickling the part of their brains that likes solving problems. The part that looks at a situation and goes, how can I use what I already know to get myself out of this? Almost like a mystery. The magic starts to carve itself from the world and enters the hands of the characters. But I want to focus on the phrase I just said, which is use what I already know. There is an inherent acquisition of knowledge that comes with this function. I found it doesn't have to be a hard-leaning magic system. It usually is, just like cool looking is usually soft, but we just need a little smidgen, a tiny sprinkling of internal logic and consistency, salt-based style. A perspective of higher understanding that it's not zero and the rest can go wherever the heck it wants to. Now, you can certainly write a story where the readers know absolutely nothing about the magic system, yet it's still used to solve problems the characters are facing. It's just that that would be considered a deus ex machina. The phrase loosely translates to God from the machinery. How epic is that phrase? But it means the gods would descend from the sky at the climax of pretty much every ancient Greek play where the characters couldn't solve the problem and be like, it's aight fam, and everything was a-okay. Now that was fantastic if you were going to see the latest Euripides play at your local theater 420 BC, but audiences have dramatically evolved from then, just something to keep in mind. But I will say there are always excellent exceptions, it all depends on the story. The key phrase here is solving problems. There can be multiple solutions to a problem, but without that sprinkling of internal logic and consistency, we remove the problem rather than provide a solution. That difference is everything. And knowledge can be just as important as the lack of knowledge. Let's hop back to Lord of the Rings. Spoilers, but it's been decades, what are you doing? We don't know everything Gandalf can do, but at this moment we know he can't magic away a Balrog. Even before he faces it head on, fear shows on his face, he starts to hurry the group. At the very least subconsciously, we gain the knowledge that this might not be something Gandaddy is capable of handling. That's where the problem solving begins. I can't magic away a Balrog, so we run. We can't run fast enough, so I stay behind. Once again, I can't magic away a Balrog, but I can magic enough to go down with it. At no point do we ever understand, hey, he's casting a 4th level Intimidate Balrog spell. It's not needed to solve the problem. The only things we do need is that Gandaldor is a badass and he can't magic away a Balrog. It's the same thing with One Piece. The only tidbits of knowledge that we know are Devil Fruit gives you powers and takes away your ability to float to the sea, rejecting you, blah blah blah. But apart from that, everything else is up for grabs. It's literally limited by your imagination, the softest of magic systems. And if you have a counter argument, I present to you the Soap Fruit. It doesn't have to be the thickest of rule-based magic for Luffy to demolish his opponents and then throw a dance party on their graves. We know he's a rubber man, but the extent of that are never really defined. Eat the fruit, get the powers. Wait, have the tacos been an analogy for devil fruits this entire time? One Piece is great, by the way, check it out. I do want to note though that stakes is also a factor in all this. When it's a problem-solving magic, it's ideal that more knowledge is revealed the higher the stakes of the problem being solved. If not, deus ex machina. Another one is cost. Gandalf turning off the bridge might not have been so easily accepted if the Balrog didn't snatch him down straight to the depths of hell along with it, even though the magic is sufficiently explained. In fact, when the magic is not sufficiently explained, more cost, something abominable for magicking away the problem, is usually the way to go. Defining the magic by problem solving and wonder base allows it to work with the story, yet still be allowed to be as wild and as logical as possible. possible. And this is where I can't go on without addressing the Sanderson-shaped elephant in the room. I'm not sure if he coined the terms hard and soft magic, but he definitely popularized them with his 3 laws of magic, which I will probably talk about in the future video, even though I just paraphrased the first 2. But you know, hit the buttons and all that. The things I'm trying to say aren't laws or rules to follow. Please, I'm not Sanderson. I don't have a cheeky Wired article written about me. Even being him, he's not the end-all be-all of magic and world building. He's said it himself multiple times. Roll clip.
These are not necessary laws that I think everyone needs to follow, because rule number 1 of this class and writing instruction is try it out. If it works for you, keep using it. If it doesn't work for you, throw it away. Most likely, you will adapt it to your own needs.
And there it is right there. Writing is subjective. Feel free to try it. If it works for you and your story, fantastic, keep it. And if it doesn't, straight to the trash. Okay, bye.